Hello, movie fans. Imagine the entire world plunges into darkness for 2 minutes, and during that brief moment, you catch a glimpse of your future. Would you fight to change it, or accept what's coming? Welcome to Flash Forward, where time is not just a concept, it's a ticking clock. In the 2009 TV series Flash Forward, the world is thrown into disarray after a mysterious global blackout plunges everyone into unconsciousness for precisely 2 minutes and 17 seconds. During this inexplicable event, people are flooded with visions of their lives 6 months ahead, sparking a desperate race to either alter or embrace their fate. If you're a fan of mind-bending mysteries, government conspiracies, and a gripping quest to alter destiny, Flash Forward is your next binge. With its original premise, thrilling twists, and deep dives into fate versus free will, this show is a must-watch for fans of Lost and Fringe. Smash that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending recaps and reviews. Drop a comment below. Would you want to know your future or leave it a mystery? Now, let's unravel this thrilling journey together. Los Angeles, October 6th. For FBI agent Mark Benford, the day begins as usual. After kissing his wife, Olivia, and young daughter, Charlie, goodbye, he heads off to work, where he meets Nicole, the nanny who looks after Charlie. Olivia, a doctor, is preparing for her shift at the local clinic. Before leaving, she calls her assistant, Bryce, but he doesn't answer. Unbeknownst to her, Bryce is standing at a pier, contemplating taking his own life. At work, Mark and his partner, Dimitri, begin a surveillance operation on a suspect. As the suspect is joined by accomplices, the agents engage in a high-speed pursuit. Meanwhile, at the pier, Bryce is ready to pull the trigger, unaware of the catastrophe about to unfold across the world. As Mark makes a sharp turn during the chase, something extraordinary happens. His entire life flashes before his eyes. In his vision, Mark sees a board covered with clues and connections, and then he's hiding from dangerous men who are hunting him down. When he regains consciousness, Mark realizes something strange has occurred. The world around him is in chaos. Hundreds of cars have crashed, and panic is spreading as people search for help. Mark spots the suspect's car and rushes toward it, finding only one survivor, a woman babbling incoherently about frightened horses. He leaves Dimitri by the car and hurries home to check on Olivia and Charlie. As he runs through the streets, Mark realizes the gravity of the situation. The blackout has impacted the entire city, leaving behind widespread devastation. Olivia calls him from the hospital, telling him that hundreds of injured people are being rushed in. While treating a patient, a young boy involved in an accident, Olivia is shocked when the boy recognizes her by name, though she has never met him. At the FBI, chaos reigns. The staff convenes urgently, and their supervisor, Stan Wedek, delivers shocking news. People across the entire world lost consciousness for approximately 2 minutes and 17 seconds. The global blackout has caused mass casualties, with millions of lives lost. But Mark is preoccupied by something else. He confesses that during the blackout, it felt like he had been transported 6 months into the future, to April 29th. He vividly recalls what will happen to him on that day. His colleagues share their own experiences, but Dimitri remains silent. Unlike the others, he didn't see anything during the blackout, a fact that deeply troubles him. Mark and Dimitri decide to organize a board of clues, and Mark recognizes it from his vision. He mentions a name that stood out to him, D. Gibbons, believing this is where their investigation should begin. Meanwhile, Olivia grapples with whether or not to tell Mark about her own vision. She saw herself happy but with another man. Mark dismisses it, reassuring her that it could simply be a hallucination. However, that same evening, his vision begins to come true when Charlie gives him a bracelet he saw on his wrist in his flash forward. Later, Olivia takes Charlie to the clinic, where she meets Lloyd Simcoe, the father of a boy she is treating. Olivia is horrified to realize that Lloyd is the man from her vision, though he doesn't recognize her. In his own flash forward, Lloyd never saw the face of the woman he was with. As Mark and Dimitri continue their investigation, an unexpected visitor arrives at the FBI. D. Gibbons herself. However, she turns out to be a religious woman who has no apparent connection to the global blackout and simply brings the agents cupcakes. After a background check, the agents discover that someone else using the name D. Gibbons had used her credit card on the day of the blackout. With this new lead, the agents travel to Utah, where they are greeted by Sheriff Keegan. During their conversation, Sheriff Keegan reveals that she, like Dimitri, saw nothing during the blackout. This leaves Dimitri hoping that the blackout's effects are simply a quirk for some individuals, but he fears a darker explanation. While the agents continue their search for Dee Gibbons, the Bureau uncovers a startling piece of footage. A man who remained conscious during the blackout was seen at a baseball stadium. Meanwhile, Mark recalls a scene from his vision involving an abandoned doll factory and suggests they investigate the building. Upon arrival, it's clear someone is inside, but their presence doesn't go unnoticed. An alarm is triggered, and hundreds of dolls begin to sing. Mark and Dimitri corner the suspect, though they're unable to see his face. The assailant mutters something cryptic before tossing a lit lighter. In the ensuing explosion, Sheriff Cabin is killed by shrapnel. Dimitri, shaken, begins to understand that his earlier fear was justified. He didn't see his future because he may not have one. Tracking Dee Gibbons' phone proves fruitful as they trace a call to an unidentified individual at the stadium. Meanwhile, Hawk confides in Dimitri about her vision, revealing she saw herself pregnant during an ultrasound. Following her colleague's advice, she decides to share her experience on the Mosaic website, which the FBI created to collect blackout-related memories. Noah also posts his information, revealing that he saw nothing during the event. That same evening, he receives a cryptic phone call from an unknown woman who claims she read an intelligence report indicating that Noah will die on March 15th. Across the world in Germany, one of the inmates, Rudolf Geyer, casually discusses the blackout with a prison guard. That same day, Mark receives a message from the old man, who claims to know what caused the blackout but insists on speaking to Agent Benford in person. Meanwhile, Dimitri meets with his fiancée, Zoe, who excitedly shares that her vision showed their wedding in Hawaii. Dimitri begins to hope that he can somehow alter his fate. Mark secures permission to travel to Munich, where he meets Geyer. However, the old man makes it clear he will only reveal the truth if he is deported to the United States and all charges against him are dropped. Dimitri speaks with the customs officer from Geyer's vision, who confirms the old man's account. Geyer is granted a pardon, but when it's time to deliver his testimony, he only provides a vague reference to dead crows, claiming it is connected to ancient scriptures. Despite the underwhelming lead, Benford believes the old man's cryptic words may hold some value. He instructs Hawk to investigate all reports of mass bird deaths. Their research uncovers a similar incident in Somalia years ago. Mark requests to travel to Somalia to follow up on the lead, but after the debacle in Germany, his request is denied. Determined, Benford enlists Al to reach out to a former suspect in a hacking case to gather the necessary information on their own. Meanwhile, Dimitri resumes questioning the woman they were tailing on the day of the blackout. He is convinced she knows more than she's letting on, but she cryptically insists the agents are looking in the wrong direction and warns Dimitri to act quickly as his time is running out. At the hospital, Olivia requests that Dylan, the boy from the accident, be transferred, but he remains in the ward. She is unaware that his father, Lloyd, poses a much greater threat, not just to her family, but on a global scale. During a phone conversation, Lloyd speaks with his accomplice, the same individual who, along with him, was responsible for the worldwide blackout. The agents soon find themselves under attack, prompting the CIA to intervene. All FBI personnel are subjected to polygraph tests to uncover why they are now being targeted. Following the interrogations, the government convenes a meeting to determine whether to continue funding the Mosaic project. Stan understands that the project is their only hope of gathering crucial information, and they must make a compelling case. As Senate hearings begin late that evening, the floor is given to Agent Benford. Mark, however, struggles with his testimony, hesitating to reveal the truth, that in his vision, he was drunk. While Mark wrestles with his conscience, his colleagues make a groundbreaking discovery. Satellite images reveal mysterious towers in Somalia, and Hawk immediately informs Mark of this pivotal find. After a private conversation with the president, Stan informs his team that they have secured funding for their mission. Mark calls Janice to share the good news and to warn her that they'll be returning from Washington soon. However, the agents are attacked once again. Meanwhile, in the dining car of a train, a passenger attempts to catch the attention of an attractive woman by talking about the blackout. As he tries to charm her, hoping to invite her to his compartment, Janice Hawk is rushed to the hospital in critical condition after the attack. Upon learning about the incident, Olivia attempts to contact her husband, but Mark soon arrives at the hospital with his colleagues. As the agents investigate the deceased attackers, Dimitri notices a familiar symbol on one of the bodies, a blue hand. This symbol matches something Mark saw in his vision, connected to the global blackout. Dr. Simon Campos, the man from the train, successfully seduces the woman, but the mood quickly changes when he reveals that in his vision, he kills someone and enjoys it. Meanwhile, Lloyd throws a Halloween party for his son Dylan, but when he gets distracted, Dylan sneaks off, boards a bus, and ends up at the Benford house, calling it home. Mark is alerted by the nanny and is shocked to find out that his daughter Charlie knows Dylan, despite them never having met. When Lloyd arrives at the house, he instantly recognizes it from his own vision. Mark also realizes who Lloyd is, and when Olivia walks into the room, the atmosphere becomes tense and awkward. The agents track down an abandoned house marked with the blue hand symbol. Upon entering, they discover several bodies with their hands covered in blue paint. Later, Lloyd returns Dylan to the hospital and heads home, but in the back seat of his car, he finds Dr. Simon Campos waiting for him. Meanwhile, the pathologist informs the agents that all the deceased in the house died by suicide. Agent Fiona Banks arrives from London to assist with the investigation. She is briefed on the Blue Hand, a ghost community of people who did not see their future during the blackout. Disguised as regular clubgoers, the agents infiltrate the Ghost Club, where members play Russian roulette as a form of initiation. Horrified, the agents observe until the leader of the movement takes the stage. At that point, they reveal themselves and arrest him. During interrogation, Dimitri presses the leader, Sunderland, to disclose who hired the Blue Hand members that attacked Hawk, but Sunderland refuses to cooperate, fully aware of his own grim fate. Agent Algoff struggles with his vision, in which he hears himself speaking with a lawyer and confessing guilt for the death of a woman named Celia. Haunted by this memory, Al leaves a letter for Dimitri and makes a fateful decision to jump from the roof, hoping to change his destiny and prevent Celia's death. In his final letter, Al offers hope to those who saw dark futures, assuring them that the future is not set in stone. Meanwhile, Simon finds Lloyd at the hospital, where Lloyd admits that he wants to make a public confession and reveal that they were responsible for the global blackout. Mark, seeking some peace, takes Olivia to the coast for a romantic weekend, but their quiet escape is interrupted by a phone call. Benford is informed that a criminal with star tattoos on his hand has been located, the very person Mark saw in his vision. Simon proposes a high-stakes poker game to his accomplice. If Simon wins, their secret about the blackout stays hidden. If Lloyd wins, they will come clean and make an official statement. Confident in his luck, Simon is sure the secret will remain buried. Meanwhile, Hawk is tasked with protecting a witness involved in the case of the criminal with the star tattoo. Late at night, Janice calls Dimitri and Mark for help, and Mark recognizes the man from his vision. Not willing to take any chances, Mark shoots, killing the suspect and once again altering fate. Back at the game, Lloyd manages to bluff and win. Instead of taking the money, he demands Simon prepare for the public announcement. Janice receives an enhanced image of their first suspect and notices a ring on his hand, a potential key lead in the investigation. Mark informs Olivia that he successfully changed the course of events by eliminating the man with the star tattoo. However, another plan is already unfolding, as another individual with the same tattoo delivers a suitcase filled with rings to a mysterious old man. Experts identify the alpha symbol on the ring that belonged to the original suspect, but its exact significance remains unclear. New intel from the NSA reveals that Dimitri received a suspicious call months ago. Realizing which call they are referring to, Dimitri demands the caller's information as it may be his only chance to prevent his own death. Meanwhile, Mark stumbles upon a message on Olivia's phone concerning his vision, leading him to question which of his friends might have betrayed him. Both Aaron and Stan are offended by Mark's suspicions and deny any involvement. The agents listen to a recording of the call Dimitri received and discover that the anonymous woman was in Hong Kong. Despite orders from their boss, Mark tells Dimitri that they're flying to Hong Kong to follow this lead. Once there, a local contact is already waiting for them. Furious about their disobedience, Stan threatens their jobs, but Mark risks everything to save his friend. Meanwhile, Lloyd addresses the nation, admitting that on the day of the global blackout, they were conducting secret experiments and takes full responsibility. However, Mark listens carefully and begins to suspect that the true cause of the catastrophe may lie elsewhere. Stan demands that Lloyd be brought in for questioning. Hawk recalls that Lloyd's son, Dylan, is still in the hospital, and Stan sends her to speak with the boy. Then, something unexpected happens. Simon Campos walks into Stan's office. He reveals that he disagrees with his colleague Lloyd, believing that someone else caused the blackout. Simon offers to assist with the investigation if he's granted access to classified information. Hawk later meets Lloyd at the hospital and offers protection in exchange for information, but Lloyd refuses and insists on being left alone. To track down the woman who called Dimitri, Mark has to bend the rules. He pressures a cafe owner who tries to withhold crucial information. Meanwhile, Stan confronts Simon with satellite images showing strange towers. Simon admits that these are his designs, lasers meant to accelerate plasma formation, but is baffled by the fact that the technology is still in development. The biggest mystery, however, is that Simon invented the laser in 1992, but the images were taken in 1991. The agents brief Simon about D. Gibbons, who likely built the lasers. Simon agrees to help locate the person who stole his ideas. Meanwhile, Lloyd asks the chief physician to transfer Dylan to a safer clinic, but following his public admission, Lloyd's credibility is ruined, and the doctor refuses. Olivia steps in and promises to do everything in her power to ensure Dylan's safety. Mark and Dimitri track down the cafe where the mysterious woman who called Dimitri is having lunch. She reluctantly lets them sit down and admits that she regrets making the call, warning that their visit might make matters worse. The woman then drops a bombshell, claiming that Dimitri's future killer will be none other than Mark Benford. As proof, she provides the serial number of Mark's gun. Stunned, Mark loses his cool and causes a scene, taking the woman hostage as they leave the restaurant. A local FBI agent arrives, forcing Mark to back down, leaving him in serious trouble. While Mark faces complications in Hong Kong, back in the US, Olivia grows closer to Lloyd. The scientist shares his thoughts on parallel universes, hinting that in another reality, they might have ended up together. Meanwhile, Mark is sent back to the States, stripped of his badge, and his future hangs in the balance. At the same time, D. Gibbons visits the Sears residence, where Dylan is being prepped for transfer. Lloyd and Olivia share a heartfelt goodbye, but Olivia senses something is off. Her suspicions prove correct: the paramedics are imposters. They attack the security team and, abandoning Dylan, abduct Lloyd. Lloyd awakens handcuffed in a basement, while Hawk is assigned to keep Simon hidden in a safe house. But their cover is quickly blown, and enemies track them down almost immediately. Dimitri discovers Janice unconscious, while Simon is taken to the same basement, where he encounters an old acquaintance. As Lloyd and Simon try to make sense of their kidnapping, the answer arrives with the appearance of an old man, Flasso, the recipient of the suitcase full of rings. Flasso wastes no time, making it clear that he won't show mercy. He demands precise answers to his questions, while back home, Mark is forced into therapy sessions to uncover hidden memories. Through these sessions, Mark recalls a conversation with Lloyd on the night of the blackout, where Lloyd hinted at a second event. However, Lloyd had kept this information quiet, knowing the potential devastation it could cause. Now, under Flasso's brutal interrogation methods, Lloyd is forced to talk. Flasso has Simon's finger cut off in front of him, compelling Lloyd to reveal everything that transpired during their secret experiment. Meanwhile, the agents figure out where Lloyd and Simon are being held, and Dimitri calls Janice to join the rescue operation. Unable to hold back any longer, Lloyd gives Flasso all the critical details of the experiment. But when the agents storm the location, it turns out to be a trap. The basement is empty and a booby trap awaits them. Mark, driving around the city, recalls a map from his vision and realizes where the captives are actually being held. By this time, Lloyd and Simon are moments away from being executed. Mark crashes into an abandoned store just in time to save them. Simon is taken to an ambulance, but inside, he finds Flasso waiting for him. The old man apologizes for cutting off Simon's finger, explaining it was necessary to divert suspicion from Simon and to remind him that he was once the prime suspect. Flasso then reveals that after Simon's father's funeral, mysterious figures brought him to a baseball game, where they forced him to wear the ring. Thanks to the ring, Simon stayed conscious while everyone else blacked out. D. Gibbons, it turns out, was behind the entire operation. Later, Janice informs Simon that he will remain in custody for a while, but Simon stages a dramatic escape. His freedom is short-lived, however, as Hawk catches up with him in Canada, flanked by armed soldiers. Hawk agrees to let Simon visit his family, but Simon escapes yet again, even while wearing a tracking bracelet. He makes his way to a boat owned by an old friend, thinking he's finally safe. But Hawk, always one step ahead, arrives at the boat before he even gets there, ready to intercept him once more. Simon and Lloyd return to Simon's house, pretending that everything is normal. As the family prepares for dinner, Simon's uncle Teddy arrives. When Simon opens the door, however, he is shocked to see Flasso standing there. During dinner, Simon's mother gets a call from his sister, Annabelle, who had disappeared after the blackout. Flasso stops Simon from answering and shows him a video of Annabelle being held hostage to prevent Simon from trying to escape again. To emphasize the gravity of the situation, Flasso shows Simon a body in his car trunk, the same old man from the boat. Tired of being blackmailed, Simon decides to take matters into his own hands. He attacks Flasso and stops his heart. Meanwhile, Mark takes Lloyd to his house, urging him to recall every detail of his vision. Both are uneasy, but Mark knows this is essential for the investigation. Dimitri, believing he has changed his fate by turning in Mark's gun for destruction, is reassured that the Hong Kong woman's prophecy won't come true. However, the gun goes missing, casting doubt on Dimitri's hopes. The agents then fly to Somalia to investigate the mysterious structures firsthand, with Simon joining the expedition but denied a weapon. Back in Los Angeles, Mark informs his boss that he's uncovered Dee Gibbons' real name, Dyson Frost, and that somehow Frost will be connected to Charlie. As the agents explore Somalia, they come under fire. Their guide tries to explain that they're on a humanitarian mission, but the Somalis kill the translator. The Somali leader, who has seen foreigners set up the towers years ago, suspects they're lying and locks them up, threatening to kill them one by one. The agents manage to overpower the guards and take their weapons, heading for the helicopter, but it's already being looted by locals. Forced to devise a new plan, they launch an attack but don't have enough time to escape. The Somali leader confronts them again, making it clear that they won't get another chance. One guard, panicking, reveals the truth: the group is made up of FBI agents. The Somali leader demands a ransom to help him seize control of the country. Janice steps in, convincing the leader that their mission isn't to start a war but to prevent one. With his help, the group reaches one of the towers. Simon is astonished to discover that the structure was built exactly to his design, but long before he even developed it. Meanwhile, Dimitri finds a videotape that has been hidden in the tower for 18 years. On the tape, the Somali leader recognizes one of his tribesmen, who is presumed dead during the first blackout. The agents also identify the experiment's mastermind, Dee Gibbons. As they explore the tower's tunnels, the agents stumble upon a sealed room where villagers were imprisoned. From the remains, it's clear the participants in the experiment were killed. The Somali leader, enraged by the sight, vows to take revenge on the Americans, but Vogel acts quickly and kills the leader, leaving his body with his fallen tribesmen. Dimitri watches the videotape again, only to be stunned when Dee Gibbons from 1991 addresses him by name. The recording is sent to the FBI, where Mark watches the cryptic message. Following the criminal's trail, Mark decodes the chess puzzle left by Gibbons and dials a phone number specifically meant for the agents. This leads Mark to a chess club where he hopes to meet someone who can help track down Gibbons, but when he arrives, he finds the witness dead. Mark realizes that there must be a mole inside the department, leaking information to the criminals. Agent Vogel gathers the entire team in the conference room to uncover the traitor, while a special team searches the employees' offices. A bug is found on Mark's desk, casting suspicion on everyone with access to the office. Tensions rise, and the agents start eyeing each other warily. Janice becomes a prime suspect due to her unexplained recent absences. To divert attention, she points the finger at Marcy, a colleague dealing with personal issues. Dimitri reviews security footage and notices a pattern: Marcy has been signaling with a coffee cup. When Mark looks at her, she realizes she's been caught. A shootout erupts in the office as Marcy kills several colleagues and tries to flee. Her accomplice arrives on a motorcycle to aid her escape, but Janice thwarts their getaway. Meanwhile, Benford receives a call from Dyson Frost, who promises a personal meeting and says he'll call back. In an underground parking garage, Janice stops Simon and reveals that his signal has been received. Her boss is ready to speak with him. At that moment, Simon realizes Marcy was just a decoy, and the real traitor has been Hawk all along. The police notify the FBI of a crime involving the stolen gun. Dimitri catches up to Marcy to find out who she passed the weapon to, but she cryptically tells him that stopping his death is impossible. Soon after, the agents get a signal that a suspect is committing a crime in the city center using Mark's gun. Dimitri bravely steps forward, distracting the criminal and persuading him to release the hostage. As the gunman lowers his guard, Dimitri shoots him, but despite the successful outcome, there is no sense of closure. The gun's serial number doesn't match Mark's missing weapon. As Dimitri prepares for his wedding, he tries not to dwell on the impending danger. However, Dee Gibbons ambushes him at home, while his fiancée and guests wait for him at the church. In the meantime, Mark informs his wife about his missing friend, but while she's on the phone, Dee Gibbons approaches and sits down next to Charlie. The agents carefully question Charlie, who describes her conversation with the stranger and hands them a picture the old man left behind. Mark and his colleagues set out to the address that Dee Gibbons hinted at in the picture. At the same time, Dimitri finds himself at gunpoint, with the weapon attached to a specialized device. Deke Gibbons reveals his inventions and grand plan to Dimitri, claiming that Dimitri's death is the only way to save his own life. Benford reaches the meeting point and is approached by a teenager who hands him a backpack containing a phone. Following Gibbons' instructions without hesitation, Mark evades his team and gets into a car waiting for him, avoiding pursuit. Deke Gibbons directs Mark along a remote highway, checking his watch as he guides him through the mountains. Finally, Mark spots Gibbons, who raises his gun and orders Mark to handcuff himself. Mark cleverly distracts him and attacks, demanding to know Dimitri's location. Before Gibbons can reveal anything, he is killed, silencing him for good. Mark, using the last known coordinates, rushes to where Dimitri is being held. He finds his friend tied to a chair with less than 2 minutes before an automatic shot is set to fire. Racing against time, Mark solves the puzzle left by the scientist to disable the device. Just as the gun fires, Mark lifts it and Dimitri survives. As Dimitri stands up, water floods the area, washing away the scientist's map and erasing all evidence and clues. Despite the rescue, critical information is lost. Mark then instructs his team to analyze Frost's blueprints and uncover how they relate to the second blackout, which the mad scientist had ominously hinted at. A mysterious man shows up at Olivia's house, rambling incoherently and insisting that her husband is actually Lloyd. Meanwhile, Janice delivers Frost's blueprints to an archaeology professor, but her secret employers demand she steal the originals. Forced into a risky situation, Hawk sneaks into the office, steals the blueprints, and grabs the last copy from Mark's desk. However, Benford catches her in the act. Thinking quickly, she fabricates a story about lost documents and convinces Mark to let her go. But when Mark invites Hawk to a meeting with the professor, she realizes her cover is blown. Mark delays confronting her, focusing instead on his discussion with the scientist. The professor explains that the blueprints Deke Gibbons had are part of a countdown device, with one of the dates being October 6th, the day of the blackout. Frost's cryptic words echo in Mark's mind, and suddenly, he has an idea. Breaking open the large chess piece on the board, Mark discovers a ring with a mysterious symbol. Olivia meets the strange man again, Gabriel, who continues babbling random words. Eventually, she discerns the truth. He has been subjected to multiple blackouts, becoming a victim of Frost's experiments. Simon, meanwhile, makes an astonishing discovery after analyzing the ring. It contains a device that allows its wearer to remain conscious during the blackout. Janice meets her handlers, and after failing to steal the blueprints, they give her one final task: retrieve the ring from the vault and eliminate Benford. On a city bridge, Simon encounters his sister, Annabelle, who delivers a chilling message. They need both Simon and the ring, and if he doesn't comply within 12 hours, she will be killed. Dimitri investigates a new crime scene, learning that someone has been systematically killing those who survived their predicted death dates in the last 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Simon memorizes the vault's code when Lloyd locks the ring inside, and as soon as he's alone, Simon decides to seize the moment to save his sister. The agents identify the killer as Mr. Slingerland, catching him in the act as he tries to claim another victim. Unfortunately, during the rescue attempt, an agent accidentally hits the girl. Mark discovers a minivan with Annabelle inside, but it's too late. Simon escapes with the ring. The agents investigate Simon's alibi for the day of the blackout and use software to prove he was the prime suspect at the baseball stadium. In a new twist, Olivia brings Gabriel to Mark's office to help find more clues. Gabriel, the unhinged victim, claims Benford's wall of clues is full of mistakes and forces the agent to redo everything according to his notebook. During interrogation, Gabriel reveals that Frost wasn't the only mastermind. Someone far more important was in control, and he plans to trigger another blackout soon. The deranged man shows a portrait of this person, and shockingly, it's the man Simon is currently speaking to. Gabriel is set to be transferred to a safe house, and Janice tips off her handlers. An ambush is set for the transport van, but instead of Gabriel, Mark is inside, disguised. The mission doesn't end there. Benford infiltrates the villain's lair and successfully captures the mastermind. He also deduces the traitor in their department, but Janice still won't confess, claiming she was working for the CIA. Benford begins interrogating the captured scientist, desperate to understand how the blackout was caused. The villain, however, dismisses the importance of how it happened. No matter what, the outcome will be the same. Benford will be dead by nightfall. Dimitri arrives at Janice's house and unexpectedly finds Simon there. With no other options left, Hawk decides to help her partner arrest Simon, breaking their previous arrangement. Meanwhile, Mark loses his composure despite repeated warnings, resorting to force in his desperate attempt to uncover the timing of the next global blackout. Recognizing that Benford is no longer in control, Stan orders him to be removed from the office. By 6 p.m., thousands of people have gathered in the streets to celebrate April 29th, the day foretold in the visions. Lloyd visits Olivia's house, determined to ensure events unfold as predicted, but Olivia chooses to alter her destiny, leaving town with her daughter, Charlie. Mark's path changes as well. He gets into a bar fight and winds up in jail. With just over an hour remaining until the predicted moment of truth, each character finds themselves in unexpected places. However, Stan posts bail for Mark, allowing him to rejoin the unfolding events. The agents rush back to the bureau following reports of explosives being planted. Simultaneously, Lloyd tracks down Olivia, urging her to return so they can recreate the night from their shared visions. As the plan progresses, Dylan writes the formula he saw Lloyd use on a mirror. Suddenly, masked attackers storm the FBI building, but Mark presses on, returning to his desk to work through the clues. Elsewhere, Simon infiltrates the corporation's server room, attempting to hack the system and prevent another blackout. At the critical moment, Lloyd contacts Mark, revealing that the next blackout will occur within the next 48 hours. Using Gabriel's notebook, Benford narrows it down further. The blackout will strike in just 12 minutes. Masked criminals destroy Mark's office, obliterating his work, but he survives and fights back. Simon realizes someone has remotely hijacked the program, leaving him powerless to stop the impending catastrophe. Dimitri suspects Simon is responsible, but Simon insists he's trying to prevent the disaster. Mark manages to warn his boss about the imminent blackout, but he becomes trapped in the building, surrounded by mercenaries. With just 30 seconds left before the explosion, Mark makes a desperate run for the exit. But in that final moment, the mechanism activates and the world once again freezes, offering another glimpse into its uncertain future. As the blackout descends, the series leaves its characters and the world on the brink of the unknown. FlashForward is an ambitious series that blends sci-fi, mystery, and drama into a captivating narrative. Though it concluded before its time, its compelling premise and relentless pacing make it a must-watch for anyone intrigued by the complexities of time and destiny. The characters wrestle with profound moral dilemmas as they navigate their foreseen futures, delivering strong performances and edge-of-your-seat moments that leave you questioning, is our future truly set in stone, or do we hold the power to rewrite it? We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts on FlashForward in the comments below, and let us know which movie or series you'd like us to dive into next. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay updated with all our latest recaps and reviews. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.